I, Shirley Wayment, was born July the 30th, 1923, to Albert and Alice Wayment.
I can tell
I
you.
was a cute and spoiled little girl.
You was a what? Cute little spoiled girl. Yeah, you're spoiled.
But I wasn't near spoiled as my brother, that was just older than me.
She was disobedient to her dad and mom. I don't know. Fun-loving. I, Kenneth W. Barrow, was born December 16th, 1921, to Ida and Thomas Barrow.
I used to call him feisty.
I used to like to work, didn't I? I used to have to get up every morning and milk a couple of cows.
You know, Jill, I fell in love with him the minute I seen him. It was what you call love at first sight.
I thought she was the most perfect little body I ever saw in my life. And I was in love with that body and them legs. Woo! I fell in love with them. I knew she couldn't play ball, but I knew she could. That wasn't the thing that we was looking for.
We got married about 6:30. And then we went and had a little lunch or something to eat. And he had to be back to his camp at 9:30. So he went back there and I went home to the room. I rented a room down there in Glendale, California. And I went back to the room and he went to the camp. And that was our wedding night. We lived in Roswell, and first we lived in a train car. And then we had a chance to move in the bigger place. And it had been a chicken coop, but it had been fixed for an apartment. So we decided to move in there. And one night he came home from out to the base and turned on the light, and all these bugs just scattered. And so I was working out to the base, and I went to work the next morning, and so while I was gone, he found a bucket and he got some sulfur and he set it on fire, and the smoke just came out all around that little apartment we were in.
It was like I'd set that house afire. When we got rid of the bed bugs.
The Mice house, that's the one we rented after I went back after Gary was born. And it was a nice little house, but it had big holes. What they were was mice holes. And so I wouldn't get out of bed the next morning until Ken got out and fixed all those mice holes. When Ken was in the Air Force, he went to quite a few classes, and he graduated from a number of different jobs, engineer and mechanics, and that was the beginning of our life.
Gary Lynn Barrow was born October 23rd, 1944.
You know, he was a good little boy. He played good outside. When he was growing up, he had a mind of his own.
It seemed like he was a very independent kid all his life.
We really love him. And He's came a long way, and we're proud of that.
Boyd W. Barrow was born June the 17th, 1947.
But he was a good baby, and he wasn't too hard to raise. He didn't want to get into trouble. He just kind of did his own thing. He'd run away once in a while, wouldn't he, Ken?
Well, he had a mind of his own.
But they'd listen to us when we told them that they had to be home at a certain time.
Pamela Barrow was born December the 24th, 1949.
You know, when she was born, I was so happy. I don't know if Kim. There's another one that has a mind of her own. But she is a good daughter, and we love her very much. I think that she would do almost anything for us, you know. She would iron or do anything, and I would sew. I'd sew for her. But she'd clean the house.
Lynn W. Barrow was born June 30th, 1953.
He didn't get to be the baby very long, but he was a good kid. But he was a joy. And that's what I told him, you know, I was disappointed because I didn't get another girl, but the Lord always knows best. And I think he knew that we needed Glenn, and I think we did need him. And we still need him right today.
Denise Barrow was born June the 10th, 1955. Well, Denise was just fun. She played good by herself. She loved her little dolls. She used to rock them and put them in her cradle. And she was just a fun child.
She didn't backtalk.
She is pretty smart that way.
And we were happy with her.
Mom was a wonderful mother. She's if you look up mother, stay-at-home mother in the dictionary, you'll see a picture of Mom, because that's what she was, as a stay-at-home mom.
Mother taught me, I think, a lot about being a good homemaker. She was really a good homemaker and loved to be a homemaker, and it was fun.
That she was such a good cook. Coming home from school when she was baking bread.
And Mom was a fierce competitor and liked to lose.
Mom's excitable and has a personality that gets up and gets going, and anything she does a good job.
Because she really taught us to love the gospel, and she was serious about it and has had a real testimony of the gospel, and she really lived it, and
she never did things halfway. She'd always do 110%.
She is the example of someone with great faith.
She had so much faith, and she taught me to have faith, and I don't ever remember her having a bad attitude about her callings in the church. Mom was a really good seamstress. That was a talent of hers, and of course her quilting.
Her service to her husband will always be something that I will admire in her.
Dad was a milkman. My first recollection of Dad was he was a milkman for Queen Weber Dairy, and I don't know, I thought that was pretty cool. And Mom was.
And it seemed like he was very compassionate. I just felt like Dad was a real compassionate person, and probably I think that was one of his finest traits, is his compassion. And I know he
was a hard worker. He could fix just about anything, you know, electrical or plumbing, or you know, he could build anything. I think that was a skill that he had, and
he's just like he is now. Everybody knows him really well because he's always been a really easygoing guy, and always fun loving Dad.
Dad was always gentle. you know. I never really saw him get upset often or anything like that, so I thought that was a good trait about him.
One of his great traits is his wonderful sense of humor, and
I had a lot of respect for my father because of the things I watched him do and the Teamsters Union. He had a lot of respect from everybody that he associated with and dealt with.
Dad always had us pray, and through his prayers, just listening to him, I knew of his strong testimony, because when he prayed, he talked to God.
I think Mom and Dad were a lot of fun. I think we had a fun home and we did fun things.
Mom and Dad wasn't very strict, but
We loved sports, and I think we all learned to love sports because of Mom and Dad too, because they love sports. And
They taught us not to be strangers at work.
church, and they worked hard in the church. Mother and Dad, you know, worked real hard. Dad was bishop most of our lives growing up, and he worked hard in the church. And
It was especially nice that they went on a mission to give an example to all the grandchildren and those people who followed after them. That Mom and Dad always were strong in the gospel and taught all the kids strong in the gospel, and
so that they taught me correct principles, you know, even though sometimes I didn't like it.
And I think that probably the best thing that they ever did, and I think that they've always been stalwarts in the church. And as I've gotten older, well, that's one of the things that I respect about them most, is their steadfastness as far as the gospel is concerned, testimony, and so forth. So anyway, one of the things that I admire about them, and that is I believe that they love one another, and especially as they got older, well, I think they loved each other more. And I think that they've been a good example as far as that's concerned, and I think that
know that this month we will have been married 64 years. The gospel means a lot to us, don't it, Ken? And we've always wanted our kids. And you know, it was hard for the boys, I think, harder for the boys than the girls, because he was in the bishopric and bishop for so many years. And then when he went to work for the Teamsters, I was the only one around for him. But I think that we both would want them all to know that we love them very much. We're so grateful we have them. Like I told you, the Lord knows more than we know sometimes. And I'm just so grateful that we've got every one of them. And I know I could ask anyone to help us, and they would. And we just love them a lot, and we love their kids. We pray for them every night because we want them to be happy and not to have a lot of problems. And, you know, I know that they have to, it's just part of life, that you have to go through some. And we love every one of them.